All right, so we're going to try to talk about perimeter and area. And you need to understand how these things work. And the first thing that I guess we need to figure out is what are perimeter and area, and then how can we use a formula to find out the perimeter of a rectangle or the area of a rectangle, because those are the questions that you have been asked to discover on your PRBL about the porterhouse and the family bakery. So we're going to try to do this on paper and also use our book at the same time. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I'm not sure. Let's see. So I'm going to try to combine these two things so that we can see. So you can see over here we have our problem setting up. Now perimeter, the word perimeter, is the distance around a figure. That can be any shape you want it to be. It could be even a circle or a triangle, but in this case we're just talking about rectangles. All right? So in this case you have a rectangle flower garden, and they tell you that it's 7 feet this way and 5 feet this way. That's the length and the width. Normally, length refers to the long part, and the width refers to the short part of a rectangle. So that's a good way to remember those things. So perimeter equals L plus W plus L plus W. Length plus width plus length plus width. But we can make that a little simpler than this, because if I add those together, that's 2 times L, because L plus L is the same thing as 2 times L. So 2L plus W is 2W. Perimeter is 2L plus 2W. This is the formula that you will always use to calculate the perimeter of a rectangle. That is the same one you will use from now on, forever and ever. That's how you calculate the perimeter of a rectangle. So in this case, we have these two variables. Those can be any numbers we want. In this case, we have this problem of Julio's flower garden. So we know that his flower garden, we're going to say P equals 2 times, well, it's 7 feet, 7 plus 2 times 5. Let's solve the equation and we'll find out how long his border around his garden is. P equals 2 times 7 is 14 plus 2 times 5 is 10. That means that P equals 24. Okay, easy peasy. All you got to do, 2 times the length of the rectangle plus 2 times the width of the rectangle. Now, what if your rectangle happens to be a square? That's this one right here. When we use multiplication, and we have a square that has sides of 16. Well, what's special about a square? Did you know that a square is actually a special rectangle? I'm sure you knew that. The thing about a square that makes it unique is that all 4 sides are the same. So I could say length times width plus, length plus width times width, or 2L plus 2W. But L and W are the same here. So really, I could just say 4 times the length of one side. So perimeter of a square equals 4 times S for side. So in this case, I have a square that's 4 times 16 4 times 16, and 4 times 16 is 64, and it's inches because they said it was inches. So always when we're doing these kinds of problems with perimeter and area, we want to make sure that we label our work. And there's the bottom of that. I don't think you could see it before. Okay. Now, what was that other word I said? I mentioned area, didn't I? And that's what you need to solve the Brownie problems. So area, if you can think of it this way, is the amount of space that an object takes up, that a two-dimensional object takes up. Okay, the amount of space that a two-dimensional object takes up. And a unit square is a square that is 1 unit long and 1 unit wide. Now that unit might be an inch, it might be a centimeter, it might be a yard, it might be a foot. But it's 1 by 1. So if I have a ruler and I measure a square inch, that means that I have 1 inch this way, and that wasn't 1 inch, that was about 1.5 inches. 1 inch, nope, that was right. Then I can come across here, make it inch, and an inch, that is a square inch because it's just 1 inch times 1 inch, and that makes a square inch. Area is how many of these I can fit in a box, or I mean in a rectangle. So how would I figure that out? Well, let's see. If I do centimeters because they're smaller, let's say I've got 4 centimeters by 6 centimeters, and I'm just going to go ahead and freehand the rest of this rectangle. There's 4 centimeters, 6 centimeters. If that is my rectangle, I want to know how many 1 centimeter squares can fit in there. Well, there's going to be 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this one's going to be about 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, if I were to connect those lines all the way across, what would I get? It would look something like a grid, wouldn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4. If I've got 6 rows of 4, what is that? That's nothing but an array. That's a multiplication problem. So if I know the length of a rectangle and the width of a rectangle, I can write a formula to find out the area of that rectangle. The formula for the area of a rectangle is A for area equals length times width. Every time you see a rectangle, the formula is going to be area equals length times width. Make sure that you get the area equals the length times the width every time. So, for example, you see down here I have an example where I have a rectangle that's 6 feet by 2 feet. If I know that's the formula, then A equals 6 times 2. A equals 12. What kind of units are these? Well, they're square feet. So I can either write it like this, square feet, or I can write it as 12 feet with a little 2 for squared up here. Area is always measured in square units. Perimeter is always just measured in units. All right, I hope that's helpful for you. I would like you to work a few practice problems, so let's try 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the area part, and let's try 1, 2, 3, and 4 also on the perimeter part. Shouldn't be very long. These are really simple formulas, really easy to do. Do those for me tonight. We'll go over them tomorrow. Come in ready to work tomorrow. We're going to have a lot to do. We'll talk to you later, and have a good evening.